Hey, it's Chris over at Dixie Fool Farm, where the facts don't matter and all the material is made up. So we're on part 3 of speaker placement. What are we trying to achieve? All right, so this is going to go into some kind of esoteric mumbo-jumbo spiritual nonsense here, right? Back when there was only one speaker, there was mono. Someone said, hey, we have 2 ears, we should have 2 speakers. And thus was born stereo, right? But here's the interesting dilemma. My sound is a mono sound source. It's coming from one place. It's actually very rare that we're hearing stereo things. We're actually hearing lots of mono things. And what our ears do are pick up the very minute timing differences between the two. And that was to help us not get killed in the jungle. So we could hear when things are behind us, in front of us. If you close your eyes, you know exactly where a sound is. Even if I move, it's going to still sound like it's coming from your computer. But let's say it was somewhere else, right? You understand what I'm getting at. So, got one mono signal, but we're playing it through 2 speakers. So what happens is we are very aware that we're hearing one thing but in 2 speakers. We know there's the speaker and there's the speaker. And even if we move, we go, yep, there's the speaker and there's the speaker. It's conflicting with what we're trying to do. So we've got the speakers in the room. We hear the speakers. What we want to do is have the speakers go away and hear a sound stage. That makes sense, right? Okay, so one of the greatest goals in an audiophile setup is that the speakers melt away and all you hear is the sound in front of you as if you were there. Of course, it never is going to sound like you were there. If you've ever heard live music, it's never going to sound like that. It can sound really good. It can sound enjoyable. It can sound transcendent. It can sound different than real life, but it's never going to sound quite like real life. That's just the way it is, because you've taken sound, recorded in one room, and now you're putting it into a different room. You can eliminate that, of course, with high-quality headphones. The problem with headphones are, when you put them on, you've actually destroyed the timing that you'd get in nature. When sound's being played through speakers, you're getting that natural delays, and you don't get that with headphones. So unless it is a binaurally recorded thing, which they do with an actual physical dummy head with microphones inside ears that are perfectly sculpted, it also sounds different than it should in real life. And people complain about the sound being in the center of the head instead of in front of them because the speakers are firing and because you don't have those timing cues. There is software and even hardware things to add artificial timing to get that sound from away from your head and into the front of you. One technique is crossfeed, where you just take a little bit of signal and you put it there. My old MP3 player with the Roxbox firmware hack, which I have lost in the woods, actually had that feature. I don't care for it. Some people do, some people don't. That's the thing about audio. Just because I like it doesn't mean that you're going to like it. And just because I set up my speakers a certain way doesn't mean that you are going to like the way they're set up. Same thing with tone controls. Same thing with everything. So there's a lot of preference here. But that's why speakers seem to be enjoyed more than headphones. Now, I can get past all that. I'm actually a long-time headphone lover, user. Used them for years. If I really want to study a piece of music, I listen on headphones. But there's also something to be said about playing music in a room with a pair of speakers. So you got different little dichotomies there all going on. So it's a mono, but it's not. And it's stereo, but it's not. So there's very few albums that are recorded in true stereo. Classical is sort of, at least the early stuff was, with 2 microphones. That's all they did. They set up in a pattern, and they set up everything around perfectly and recorded it. That is true stereo. The Beach Boys did it with experiments on some of their albums, like Sunflower and Surf's Up, where they had every instrument was recorded with 2 microphones. to get a actual stereo recording of each instrument. Normally in a studio, everything is recorded with one microphone on multiple tracks, and then they mix it into stereo. So they're mono signals all mixed. In the context of this conversation, that's actually kind of a good thing, because I'm a mono signal as well. So, part 3. A lot of confusion here. Nothing really accomplished, except for a different way of thinking of what are you trying to do with your speakers and what illusion are we trying to accomplish here. In part 4, I will go over the real trick of all of this, the stuff that I've been reading about that I have failed at. I'm unable to duplicate in this room, but maybe you'll be successful. It doesn't cost you anything but time and downloading a song. And even with my failure, I have improved the speaker sound field immeasurably. I mean, it's just much different in this room and much nicer. And having to use tone controls before to get to the sound I like, I do not need them anymore. I have my stereo on direct because I moved the speakers to suit the sound that I like, opposed to changing the source to the sound I like and compensating for the deficiencies in my speaker placement. 6 minutes already. Bunch of rambling. Please make sure you unsubscribe if you don't like my videos or you have different opinions that you just don't care for what I say. And thanks so much for those of you who do enjoy what I say, whether you agree with me or not. Take care, everybody.